So there's a new D&D book and it's got things inside. This video is about some of those things. Even if you have no intention of using any of the big core rules changes from 1D&D or buying this book, you should still steal these rules. These are simple changes, effortless to throw into any game, and easy to understand. Let's dive in. Spellcasting Services. Here's a table. Boom. Players can now hire spellcasting services from people in towns and villages that they go to access spells they wouldn't otherwise have. Obvious things are like Greater Restoration to end a curse on a player, or Raise Dead to bring someone back to life. That's not bad for 2,000 gold. Maybe you could also cast Fabricate to whip up a bunch of weapons from a skilled caster. Or maybe you have 20 grand and want to clone yourself in case you ever die. Note that this interaction specifically is a way for any player to become essentially immortal no matter what class they play. There are a lot of player schemes that can be cooked up or plot hooks that can be buried in the idea of hiring spellcasting services. Maybe the party need to get the money to hire a druid to cast plant growth to enrich the soil to save a farming village, for example. Or maybe it's just fun. Maybe you chuck someone 50 gold to grab a familiar. Nice. Voluntarily failing saving throws. Yeah, there's a rule that lets you voluntarily fail saving throws now, so it's good. You can willingly contract werebear lycanthropy now, which is funny and genuinely pretty strong. Origin feats. So everyone getting a free feat at level 1 is a common house rule anyway, but the advantage of origin feats is it splits the feats off into ones that aren't going to be ridiculously overpowered to give people at level 1. Although a few feats have changed in the new book, you can still use the classic versions of these origin feats and give them to your players as options at level 1. And if they want something not on that list, you can always negotiate and see if it's appropriate. The only rule I would stick to if you expand on this list is no half feats at level 1. Basically, players can't have anything that gives them additional boosts to their stats as an origin feat. Surprise! Surprise in the classic rules is crazy. It basically robs the characters of their entire first turn in combat. If your players get this off on an enemy, that enemy is probably dead. If you do this to your players will hate you. 2024 Surprise works differently. Now you have disadvantage on initiative rolls if you are surprised. It's way simpler and it's way less overpowered. I mean, why not, right? Heroic Inspiration. Okay, so here's just a free upgrade on the classic inspiration that you can take. Classic Inspiration gives you advantage on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, but you have to declare you're using it before you make the roll. You can only have one use of it at a time, and that is basically it. It's okay. Heroic Inspiration is quite different. You can now re-roll any die you roll, be it a saving throw, an attack roll, or even a damage roll. You also choose to use it after you roll, so you can potentially re-roll a failed saving throw. This is way more valuable. You also can only have one use of Heroic Inspiration at a time, but if you get another use by doing something awesome while you still have one, you can gift it to somebody else. This is great. It also goes kind of crazy with some new features which let you get Heroic Inspiration in new ways, but don't worry about those. No matter what edition you're playing, or even what game you're playing, this is a great way for GMs to reward players. But let's keep moving because I want to talk about a game-changing interaction between two new features that you can totally use. Running a good D&D encounter is a lot like pleasuring a woman, in the sense that I have no idea how to do it. Luckily, one of those problems has a solution. It's Roll for Combat's Battle Zoo Bestiary Elemental Store. This is a tome of over 170 award-winning new monsters, elemental spells, monster hunter rules, and crafting rules. And it works with D&D 2014, D&D 2024, and even Pathfinder. The monster crafting system provides new ways to kill monsters, take their parts, and turn them into weapons, armor, gear, and anything else you want. And it works on any monster, even homebrewed, and provides players multiple paths to take while crafting. Might, magic, or technique. No matter your class, subclass, or even game system, you will have unique gear with unique abilities that are crafted directly from the monsters you defeat. Check out Battle Zoo Bestiary Elemental Storm on Kickstarter right now to grab all the new spells, monsters, monster hunting rules, and crafting rules using the link below. Take your games to the next level today. Spell scroll scribing. Here's a table. You can now craft spell scrolls if you have proficiency in the Arcana skill or with calligrapher's tools. It costs the gold and time shown. Remember that you can only cast spells from spell scrolls if they're on your class's spell list, so most of the time you're going to be crafting scrolls for yourself. Still, this gives you the ability to bank spells to later cast without using a spell slot. You can scribe yourself emergency scrolls, maybe Dimension Door, maybe Revivify, etc. It gives spellcasters a little bit of tactical power to reward prep if they have the money. Too strong for some types of games? Possibly, but a great addition if you're into the high-power fantasy. Bonus action spellcasting. I hate this rule in the 2014 rules because the comments section don't understand it and then they yell at me. In the classic rules, you can cast any number of leveled spells on your turn. There is no limitation at all. However, if you cast any spell on your turn using a bonus action, you can't cast any other leveled spells that turn. Only cantrips. And that is the whole rule. It is confusing, and it's also kind of annoying. For example, if you use your bonus action to cast a cantrip, like Shillelagh, you now can't use your action to cast a leveled spell. But the other way around is fine. You can use a bonus action to cast Spiritual Weapon, a leveled spell, and then still cast a cantrip as your action. The new rule that you should totally steal is simply you can only cast one spell per turn using a spell slot. Boom. It's easy to remember, and it prevents some crazy combos. You can no longer fireball twice using Action Surge, even if you ignore every other new updated class rule in 2024. The funny thing is though, you can still cast multiple leveled spells on a turn, as long as you don't spend a spell slot to do so. So if you use a Ring of Spell Storing or a Spell Scroll or Sorcery Points, if you're an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, to cast a spell, you can still cast another leveled spell that turn. That's an interesting interaction that could be worth building some interesting characters around. But it requires commitment and creativity, not just slapping 2 levels of fighter on literally any spellcaster. Bonus action Potions of Healing. Yeah, you can drink a potion of healing as a bonus action now, or administer it to someone else. It's a good rule, like don't sleep on the ability to pick up a downed ally within 5 feet of you using only a bonus action and a potion. That is genuinely good. Weapon Mastery. So this is already free on D&D Beyond and will be in Creative Commons soon, and it gives a small buff to every weapon in the game if you're a martial character. The question is, why not use this? The only reason I think you wouldn't use this is if you're using a better system that does the same thing. Ryoko's Guide has a beautiful and deep system that gives a full skill tree to almost every weapon property in the game. It has a ton of customization and it evolves as you level up. There are other martial enhancements out there too that are better than the 2024 Weapon Mastery, but they all cost money. This is free, and it makes weapon choice actually matter, and it gives a small boost to martial characters. Invocations go polyamorous. Yeah, you heard me. Agonizing Blast, Eldritch Spear, Grasp of Hadar, Repelling Blast, they all used to only work with Eldritch Blast, but now they apply to any Warlock cantrip. Eldritch Blast is still probably the best choice because of how it scales across the game, giving you more attacks, but there are some cool interactions you can do instead. Maybe a Warlock can grab Ray of Frost and the Invocations Repelling Blast and Lance of Lethargy. On a hit, you now reduce a creature's speed by 20 feet and push them back 10 feet. Assuming a creature's average movement speed is 30, you basically lock them in place with this, unless they waste an action dashing. It's not especially powerful or reliable, but it's fun and it's a new option for Warlocks. 19th level Epic Boon. So Epic Boons have always existed. The rule you want to steal here is the option for players to take them as a feat at level 19. If players have reached that level, why not give them something crazy? You don't need the ones in the book. The old options are still just as good as they always were. Boon of Fortitude, Boon of High Magic, Boon of Magic Resistance, Boon of Perfect Health. There's plenty of good ones to mess around with. This lets players enjoy some really cool abilities and features that never really show up in the classic 2014 rules. If you're fucking crazy, you could even tweak this rule to give players access to epic boons from level 16, but do so at your own risk, you goddamn psychopath. Druids can wear metal armor now. Yeah, Because that rule was stupid, right? Extended spell metamagic gives advantage on concentration checks. Yeah, again, just a good rule. Extended spell used to be trash, now it's actually an option worth considering. Invisibility. The 2014 rules for invisibility are baffling. For example, if you cast See Invisibility on a creature, even though you can now see it, you still have disadvantage on attack rolls against it. Madness. The 2024 rules have the common sense solution. If a creature can somehow see you, it ignores the invisible condition. Invisibility also gives you advantage on your initiative rolls now, which is kind of cool and interacts with the next rule that you should steal. Hiding. The classic 5e hiding rules are weirdly complicated. You make a stealth check, which is contested against the enemy's perception check, but they have to make that perception check, presumably as an action, or they use their passive perception. It's just a lot of rolling of dice, and it's very variable, and it's messy, but the new hide action is straight down to business. Make a stealth check, DC 15, while you are heavily obscured or behind cover and an enemy can't see you. If you beat a 15, bam, you have the invisible condition. It's easy to remember, and rogues can now guarantee success when they hide, assuming they have a relatively good dex score and reliable talent. It also means if the entire party hides before combat, they get the invisible condition, which means they all have advantage on initiative rolls, and the first attack they make will be made at advantage. I like how this rewards prep and ambushing your enemies without the absolute insanity, which was the classic surprise round rule. Upgraded spells. Okay, let's talk about the upgraded spells, because unlike changes to class features or even feats, which can be a pain to integrate mid-campaign, it's very easy to just swap in a slightly better version of a spell. There are a fair few changed spells. Some have been nerfed brutally. I would not touch the new Inflict Wounds, for example. I won't go through them all here because that really is its own video, but a bunch of them are gonna go into Creative Commons and you can just take them freely. In the meantime, here's a couple for you to chew on. The new True Strike isn't abysmal trash. It is completely different now, and it's basically a booming blade style weapon attack cantrip. It lets you attack with your spellcasting modifier and deals a little extra damage at higher levels. Witch Bolt is another spell that used to be awful and is now pretty decent. 2d12 on the initial hit isn't bad, and then you get to use a bonus action each turn to deal an additional 1d12 damage. It's kind of like the classic heat metal spell now, which is pretty great. There are other spell changes, of course, but we'll cover those another time. If you want to support the channel and access tons of awesome rewards like new subclasses, species, feats, spells, and ready-to-play adventures, please consider supporting on Patreon. Your support on there makes the entire channel possible. I am so grateful to everyone who supports. Also, remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.